Today we're going to draw a spaceship. It's part of a two-part assignment. We'll be making the spaceship today, and then we'll be cutting our spaceships out and gluing it down to a background after we're done making the background. All right, okay. Give me 1 second because my autofocus does not want to cooperate. So I'm going to just... There. All right, hopefully it'll stay focused. So spaceships can look a lot of different ways, and they can be a lot of different shapes. But the main thing we're going to work on is making 3D shapes. And I think I'm just going to start by making a line. So my spaceship's going to evolve from this line. And I'm going to have my spaceship being shown from the side. So I'm going to draw a profile. So this ship is going to have a cockpit, which is where the pilot sits. I'll start like that. And I think it's going to be symmetrical. So I'm going to make the same thing on the other side. So maybe it has two pilots, depending on which way it's going. And I'm going to give it some kind of angular shapes. All right, so I'm getting a form. Now, there's no rule about what a spaceship looks like, but there are some rules for what I have you do in art class. So whatever shape you come up with, that's up to you. That's kind of like saying, when people say they know what aliens look like. Well, as far as I know, nobody knows what an alien looks like. But we've all seen movies and pictures of aliens, but they're all made up, as far as we know. Well, until someone tells me different, that's what I'm going with. But ships are mechanical, so they have parts that are three-dimensional, and typically mechanical things on any sort of vehicle have the same characteristics. So we have different pipes and bolts and things to hold it together. So I'll start right up front. I need to make it so they can see out. At least my ship has a window. Maybe your ship doesn't have windows. Maybe it's all solid and they look out by looking at a video monitor. It's a possibility. That actually makes more sense to me because it would be a better way to protect the people inside. And our technology is very good, so we wouldn't really have, it wouldn't be any different than looking out a window. All right, now since I made a window and it has to have a frame around it, I'm gonna make tiny little circles to show that the window has been well secured with many rivets or screws. I'm not going to get that detailed that I could tell the difference, but I'm making this detail. And since I said my ship has the same thing on the front and back, I will make one very much like it in the back. And since I have windows, now I have to draw the controls or the cockpit where the pilot would be flying. So I'm going to have some kind of weird apparatus in here. It's going to be like one of those weird, like Superman ship. It has just like this weird thing that only Superman knows how to control. It's very organic. I think his hand fits right into something there. So mine's more of an alien ship. It's not human technology. And I'm going to start drawing weird things. Like I'm going to make a box here by just drawing a square. And then I'm going to have some tubing that runs down to another box. And then I'll put a similar box over here. And it's going to have some tubing that goes to that box. So right now my tubing is just parallel lines. And we're going to use some shading later on to make it look more 3D. Now my boxes, if I want them to look, I'm showing them right from the side, so they wouldn't really have anything three-dimensional showing on them. But if I wanted to show something like, oh, let's say I'm going to add some kind of support to hold that up. And I'm going to add a ridge here, and then I go up and down. So now I have a 3D shape here. This is like a long triangle, kind of a pyramid that connects here and comes out and pops up. And then I'm going to add lines on one side of it and on the bottom of it to show that it's in a shadow. It has a bit of a shadow to it. And since I made one of those, I'm going to make one on each part. And I'll do the same thing over here. So I stop short, and then I connect it with a triangle, and then I bring those up, connect, and then connect that down. All right. Now it's starting to get some weirdness going on. I think I'm going to draw straight lines to connect these bottoms of these triangles together too. I think that'll give them a little bit of a flare out. And I'm going to put some boxes here and here. These are going to have multiple tubes going up to that section. And actually these are going to have some kind of circle thing like that. And I think I'm going to make this box connect to this box with another tube. And I'll do the same thing with this one. Make sure I erase that so it looks like it's connected. All right. What else can I add? More tubes coming out. It's going to go up like that. It's going to go down like that. This one will go straight up. Straight up. And then I'm ready to add some more shadows. So this is the trickier part of this assignment. So I want it to look Right now it's just empty. There's no shadows. I want this to all be done in pencil. So I showed you how to make a shadow right here with lines. So I could keep doing that. So if my shadows are underneath this and on this side, I want them to be the same on the whole ship. So this side's going to have the shadow and this bottom's going to have the shadow. Or you could just shade it in dark instead of drawing lines. That might be simpler. So I'm just going to go with the dark. So on this, I'll only shade this side in because, make that one a little bigger, this part would not be in the shadow. Alright, now I have to start figuring out what else is going to be in the shadows. These panels, I want them to look like they're kind of hanging over this part of the ship. So I'm going to give them kind of a, not quite as dark as this one, but a medium shadow. So I'm using the side of my pencil to shade that in. These would be in the light, so they wouldn't have any shadows. But actually I want to add, I'm going to connect these here like this. So these look more angular. So this side would be up, this side would be down. So I'm going to make this one have a shadow. This one's going to have a shadow. And this one will have a shadow. And I can do the same thing on this side. This piece would be lightly shadowed. This one. And this one. I'm going to go back and make this line a little darker so I don't lose that line. I think the rest are okay. Alright, now it's starting to get more of a 3D look to it. And then I'm going to make these controls just dark black. And they're on the inside of the ship. So I'm going to color them as dark as I can with my pencil. The next thing is the tubing. Alright, so if my shadows are on the left side, this is my left, you're right, and underneath, when I make my tubes, I'm going to make them really black on the left side. So anything going straight up and down is going to be black on that side. So I'll just make a thick black line on the left side. And anything that, since the top is lit up too, the bottom side should have a shadow. So now I'm going to turn it this way, just so it's easier. It's always easier to draw straight up and down versus side to side if you want to make a nice smooth line. That one's a little skinny, so I gotta be careful there. Back in that box. I can just make it a little wider going that way. So I'm gonna make it nice and dark on that side. this one. Okay, and I wanted these boxes to look 3D, so one more thing I'll do is I'll make a kind of a shadow next to it. It's actually putting shade onto the tubing and below it. Now I don't know what my light source actually is. In outer space, I don't know what, if unless they're by a sun or a star, I don't really know how light and dark works. If it's just dark, I really don't know. All right, so there I just drew some shadows on that same side. On these circles, I want them to look like, I think I want to make them look like spheres. So I'm going to shade them on one side, darker on this edge, medium, and then just a few light lines like that. I only have 2 of those, so I don't have to do too much. So dark, medium, just a few light lines. Let's try to get that to look gradual. Smudge it a little bit like that. And then black, I need to black that out. I'm going to draw some, actually I want it to look like it's shiny, so I'm going to make it like a kind of an S curve here. It gets skinnier. And I'll do one over here too. All right, I think my ship is done. That's my version of a ship. I'm trying to go over so you can see how I see it. You can make your ship any way you want. And that's why I chose to make my ship so radically different than things you might be used to seeing. I just wanted to use my imagination and 3D shapes to make something that might even exist out there. Who knows? All right. Next week we'll make our galaxy background, and then we're going to cut this out and glue it onto our galaxy background.